I'm going to go ahead and call the October 4th meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please take a moment of silence. Thank you. Before we do the roll call, please make sure you have your cell phone silenced or on vibrate. Thank you. And I'll begin roll call beginning with Commissioner Mike Smith.
Here.
Vicki Cause is here. Doug Smith.
Here.
Mike Stephen.
Here.
Jeff Fullerson.
Here.
We are all present and accounted for. Okay. Public comment for agenda items. We have several today. I will begin with let's see. Delbert Rudy, are you here today? Come on up and your address and name and for the record.
Yeah, I'm Delbert Rudy. I live at 16650 Dunnigan Road, Baser, Kansas. I'm here to make a few comments on DEV-23-118. I'm opposed to this rezoning for a couple of reasons. First, the stormwater hydrology. I have lived at that address for 30 years, and water has been a problem for that 30 years that I've lived there. The county came out and put in larger tubes in front of my house and in front of Ken's house, and we still have water problems. Water still comes over the road, and I think this is because of the housing addition that's to the west of us. That runoff water's got no place to go. There's asphalt and concrete up there, and the water just has no place to go, and it floods across the northeast corner of my property that is adjacent to the property in question that they're wanting to rezone, and that's parcel 185-16-00-00.063. It's been proposed that the zoning be changed from RR 2.5 to R1/43. That takes it from 2.5 acres down to 1 acre. Already, my property floods on occasion because of what's already there. It's pasture ground, and there shouldn't be that much runoff, but there is. There's a dam on that property that the dam's been taken out partially, and it just increases the flooding in that area. The second reason, I guess, is to keep the flavor of our neighborhood the way it is. Most everybody around there has 2.5 acre plots, and that's what we expected when we moved out there. Ken's been living there for 36 years. My neighbor, I've been living there for 30 years. And that's why I moved to Leavenworth County, was to get out of the city. I really don't want the city in my backyard again, and that's what it is if you have 1 acre plots. A couple of weeks ago, the planning department debated the proposed rezoning and came with a motion to deny the rezoning, and the vote was 6-2 to deny. I can only hope that the commission will uphold these findings and keep my neighborhood at the zoning of RR 2.5. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Joe Herring.
Morning, Commissioners. Joe Herring, Surveying, 315 North 5th Street, Leavenworth, Kansas. Have several rezones up in front of you today. Here to answer questions on those if you have any when they come up. But on the same case the gentleman was talking about, that was denied at the Planning Commission for some of the reasons I wasn't quite sure why those were the reasons to be denied. Our county did go through several years ago and update our sewer plans to allow for 1 acre zoning in this area for another development. It fits the comp plan. Any stormwater runoff from this new development, if it happens, will have to be detained and not allowed to increase the runoff onto the gentleman's property, anybody to the south or in any direction. They have a significant amount of runoff that comes from the south, 300 acres. But that all happens during the development phase. This is the rezone, fits the plan. And like I said, we did go through and approve for 1 acre septic systems in our sewer plan. So again, here for any questions if you have them when the case comes up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Okay. Next, Mike Riley.
Chairperson, thank you. Members of the Commission, thank you. Mike Riley, Riley Development, 608 Delaware, Leavenworth, Kansas. Here to speak in favor of the rezoning of the McGee property. I don't have an interest in the property or the project. I certainly will have an interest in other projects and in the South County and in the Baser area. But for me, this isn't necessarily more about this particular project as it is the same discussion we had over about a month ago when I was here talking about development in the South County and what the county can do to take advantage of the growth that's going to take place, not only from things like the Panasonic plant, but just what's naturally going to happen in southern Leavenworth County. And I think it's the realization that southern Leavenworth County is in the growth pattern of the metropolitan area, and these parcels are going to develop. So the question is what's the best possible way for them to develop in a reasonable time frame? And when you look at the proper use of the ground, to me, in certain growth patterns, it is to take advantage of what our comp plan allows, which is 1 acre lots. Certainly that's not the case across all of our county, but in certain areas of our county where the growth pattern is happening, I believe this to be the right use of the ground going forward to tie into utilities as they become available in the next 15, 20, 25 years. But more importantly for today, to take advantage of just the right size of what I believe people are looking for today and what the right use of the neighborhood is. When I look at that neighborhood, to me, acre lots seem to make sense being that close to the city and in the growth pattern of Leavenworth County. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we need to move on to administrative business. And today, before we begin all of the administrative business, we have a video that we would like to.
I think you had one more that wanted to speak.
Oh,
Robert.
who was signed up? Yes. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
Didn't have that on the list.
Sorry, Ms. Cass. Robert Owens, 18210 Amelia Earhart Drive, Leavenworth, Kansas. But I'm also a standing member of the Planning and Zoning Board for Leavenworth County. This is about case DEV 23-118, which we didn't approve at a 6-2 vote. And I just wanted to clarify for the people here and for our commissioners, we don't feel that we have enough information coming before us on these rezones. And I think the consensus of the Planning and Zoning Board is we would like to see everything that's being presented now in a development plan style or as a PUD. Therefore, and let me backtrack here for a minute. Normally when we do these splits, when we ask, is there anybody to speak for or against, the room's silent. We approve it, we go on our way, we get accused of rubber stamping everything. Well, for once, we asked questions for almost 40 minutes. Talked to the neighbors. Just about every neighbor showed up on this case. That rarely happens. That's part of the reason why it was a no vote. Because you did have the neighbors that came forward and said, hey, what are we doing about the water? Well, we couldn't say what we're doing about the water because we have no idea what we're doing about the water. If this would have came before us as a development plan or a PUD, we could say, hey, it's right here. This is what we're going to do about the water. This is what we're going to do about the traffic. This is how it's going to be. We don't get that information at the planning and zoning. We've got to change that somehow between the planning and zoning and the commissioners, where we have all the information so we could give this a yes vote. Because I believe if it would have came before the planning and zoning with a development plan, we knew where the water was going, we know where the driveways are going, we have a road impact study, that's a yes vote. We're not against development in Leavenworth County. But in this particular situation, we just didn't have enough information to say yes. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that takes care of that. So now we will move on to administrative business. And as I said, we have a video on local ad valorem that we would like to share with the public. So we're going to go ahead and do that before we begin the rest of the meeting.
Commissioners, you'd asked me to queue up this video. It was created by the Kansas Association of Counties in reference to the LAVTR. Hopefully it's not so dim that we can't see it up there, but we'll give it a try.
LAVTR is local ad valorem tax relief. It's a fund. It's been funded for
Can you turn it up a little?
50 years now. And it's a transfer of collected taxes collected by the state that are sent back to the counties for distribution for use as property tax relief.
As candidates, a number of us last summer and fall during the 22 election cycle, we introduced a package of legislation designed to give relief to taxpayers and in particular homeowners. One of those proposals was to replenish the LAVTRF, which unfortunately was cut off 20 years ago. The statute is still there. The statute remains, that statute being an obligation of the state to fund that fund with the express purpose of lowering property taxes.
The function of tax policy is to fairly collect money and then fairly distribute it so that it does its purpose. The state has a lot of levers to pull that they can use to fund state government and allocate it around, where the county has very few, really just now property tax. Being able to get those funds back to the counties is in the rational self-interest of all of us small business owners. And as folks who don't have a huge platform to lobby from and don't have huge microphones, all we can do is ask our legislators who are in our community, who are friends and neighbors and patrons at our establishments, to honor that commitment to bring money back to counties, as long as it makes sense and we all agree on it. And that's kind of how democracy works, right?
I think it's extremely important. It's the right thing to do. Anyone that goes door to door finds out that the foremost heartfelt issue that you find is property tax. There isn't a more important issue, really. And it affects those on fixed incomes, young families, and businesses. And to have an economy that thrives, we really need to build an ability to have lower property tax. In fact, I was there in 2003 when we had a downturn of the economy, and the state basically was under duress and pulled money from everywhere, and we unfortunately had no ability to continue funding the LAVTR that year. Things have changed. The structure of financing is completely different these last 2 or 3 years because the state has gotten out of their fiscal situation and now are flush with money. The question no longer is how are we going to give tax relief, but where. And our position, my position, is do it where it's needed the most, and that is in the area of rising property taxes. The time is now for the state to take some of that excess money that they have and do
what they should be doing, and that is providing property tax relief to property taxpayers. And my concern in particular is for small businesses and homeowners.
If LAVTR is a law that's on the books that exists in order to provide a government function of moving money around in a way that benefits society, then we should follow through on our commitment to the law and do what we say we're going to do. I'd be more asking the question, does this make sense? And if it does make sense, why aren't we doing it? It's fair for us to say, hey, what we thought 20 years ago, we don't think anymore. But it's not fair to not have the conversation and to not think about it and to just kind of, pass it up and sweep it under the rug. Policy decisions are made by our elected representatives, and it's our job to provide accountability and make sure that our representatives are having the conversations that we want them to have and driving policy in the direction that we want.
If people are upset, and they are, I know they are, if they're upset about high property taxes, this is the easiest and most direct way to provide that relief. So commissioners need to be on board. They need to be contacting their representatives here at the legislature, but they also need to be giving that message to their own citizens that that's one place that the relief can be provided immediately, directly, and substantially.
Thank you. Okay. Mark, do you have anything that you'd like to follow up with that?
I think we talk about this it seems like every week, and for the last several years we've been talking about it. And I know that there was a couple of a senator and a representative who came through the county recently, and they were stumping for their flat tax initiative, and somebody asked them about the LAVTR, and they made the comment that one of them made a comment that counties use it as a slush fund, and that's why they took it away. Well, the real reason they took it away, if anybody was back, those of us who were here back when it happened, is because, just like he said, the state ran out of money, and rather than raising taxes, they took the money away from local government, so we had to raise taxes, and then they blamed us for raising taxes, so it's kind of ironic. The legislation says it has to be spent on tax relief, and it's spent at a local level. That we've also adopted a resolution that said we will only spend it to lower the levy. It's not to create a slush fund. The senator that made that comment is just wrong. But I guess he doesn't support it. He supports the flat tax, which also gives banks a 30% reduction in their taxes. So go figure. It is what it is. I think that video is very accurate, and I think this supports what the Commission has been saying for the last several years.
It's interesting, Mark. Good statement. There's another one, too, that we put out that I told you all about. I spoke with Lansing. It must be nice to choose which laws we follow, because I thought we all had to follow all the laws, no matter what, unless the law is changed. And we're talking about billions of dollars across this state that even cities and counties could use to help lower that property tax. So anybody listening, people in the audience, talk to your legislators. Don't let them tell you that it's a slush fund. It is not a slush fund. It's something that can directly help you with property tax.
Well, it's built into the law itself that says it has to be used. The name of the fund is the local ad valorem tax relief fund, property tax relief. And not only is it in the law itself that we'd have to use it for that, we passed a resolution in Leavenworth County saying we will use it 100% to relieve property taxes. And it would be about $4 million a year, every year, right now. And it goes up every year. So if they were to enact it right now.
And that's just the county's portion.
Just Leavenworth
Cities
County.
Are also entitled to their share, so
yes.
it would be even further reduction on property taxes. And I know there's also a proposal at the state level that they eliminate the state mill levy, which is only 1.5 mills. We'll take that, but we still think the LAVTR needs to be reinstated.
And I still do not understand how they've turned it into a war between county commissioners and state representatives
Ridiculous.
on this LAVTR. We're just asking for their help to enact something that's already on the law books that would immediately relieve property taxes.
And it's
4 whole
money that
mills
was
a year.
collected from here.
Yeah.
Right.
So
It's not like it's money coming from other parts of the state. It was money that was collected in this county.
yeah.
Okay.
Last week I did a Zoom call with KAC, and their current policy statement says that the status quo as far as property taxes is basically okay, and I think we're going to get them to move. I don't know if we're going to get them to endorse the constitutional amendment, but they're going to move to the position where they support reforming property taxes in Kansas, and that's a good step. They should support the constitutional amendment, of course, I believe, but that's a good step, and they're very much on board on the LAVTR.
Just got to quit kicking the can down the road, Mike.
Yep.
That's what they've been doing for years.
And you know, none of these single items are the panacea, but if you tie LAVTR, you get the constitutional amendment to the voters, you change the rules about where comparable properties, how far out they can be located, and doing averaging. There's a lot of things we can do to help.
Well, I think that the main thing that people need to realize is that this is money that has already been, you have paid as taxpayers, the money that was collected, and it's being withheld from you to balance was to balance the state's budget, as opposed to giving relief to the property owners of our county and allowing them to have relief. And so I think that it's really important that as taxpayers, we all need to contact our officials. I can assure you that this Board of County Commissioners have done so consistently for at least 4 years. And even Commissioner Doug Smith and I, we paid to place an ad in the newspaper out of our own pockets to try to educate the public about how this was working. And so I think that you know, we're doing our part is the best that we can, but we need you as well to start speaking out, because having this money is being withheld from you as well.
And also, one last thing. I know we beat this to death. This is the first time in a few years that I've actually seen momentum going that can really get something done. People are being talked. I've got legislators that are being cornered, and they'll say, "We'll check into it." No, the answer is, do you support it or don't? It's real easy. And the other thing is, just lay it like it is. 2024, our Senate, our representatives, every one of them is up for election. If you can't give the money back to the citizens, then they need to be held accountable.
And continue to hold us accountable, too.
Right.
And we had a very, I would call it a rough and tumble budget process, but we got our spending on the county reduced from 14% down to about 7.7%. That's a significant reduction. And you look at the other, the school districts and the cities, Leavenworth County did pretty well.
So
What did
you
the state do with
throw
their?
the $4 million
We would be
$4
in-
mil reduction?
Be a big deal.
Then we could have did revenue neutral.
That's correct.
Or give us a property tax relief.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other administrative business? Did you have?
I just spoke with Tim Johnson Monday night, Representative Tim Johnson of the 38th District, and just want to know where we're at on our legislation that he's going to carry for us.
Yeah, Commissioners, we'll have a work session either next week or the week after on our legislative agenda topics, and that's ready to go. It's actually one that we've submitted before, so we just need to bring it in and I guess get it in tune with what the Commission's currently thinking, and then it's ready to go. So
Okay. All right.
I just reviewed it yesterday with our.
He's wanting to help us, so we've got a representative wanting to help us. I'm going
I think
to
we
take
have
it.
that rural water issue, we
Yeah.
have the LAVTR issue, and then there's maybe a couple other items that when we do our legislative breakfast that we want to touch on. So.
Okay. Well, he was wanting a draft.
Yep, we have it. I just want to make sure that the
Updated.
language from a couple of years ago fits with the message we want to send today.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Do you have that breakfast scheduled yet, or do you know?
I've asked the county clerk, who, by the way, is in the office, and she is working on getting that scheduled.
Good.
And it will be either late November or December.
Anybody else have anything at this point?
I don't.
Not, then we can move on down to the consent agenda.
Madam
Is there
Chair.
anything that needs to be removed before we? Okay, go ahead, sir.
If not, Madam Chair, I move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion is second. Begin voting with Commissioner Mike Smith.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Carries. Okay, we are down to formal board action. We need to consider a motion to authorize EMS to order a replacement ambulance from ARB for the year 2025. Welcome, Jamie.
Morning, Commissioners. Before you today, as you just read, to authorize EMS to purchase our 2025 ambulance. As you read in the briefing report, the build times on these units are out to about 3 years. We have an opportunity, if we do order it at this last basically quarter of the year, they will place that unit hopefully in their demo slot for the year, and that would give us that unit in 2025 versus 2026. We just received this year in June our 2022 unit, and we're not going to receive our 2023 and 24 until probably December of next year. So again, this is just a formality. We're still just ordering units, one per year, to get us through as we're going through this process. And we're also looking at a replacement plan of potentially remounting some units and things like that in the future to help reduce some of those costs. So the unit for today is the 2025 unit per our purchasing policies and schedule.
Maybe if I could just ask a quick question. 4 years ago, before we started running into, I know it was still like a 6-month process here based on these, but what was the cost back then?
That's where I was going. Yeah.
We've seen an increase. Probably 4 years ago, I was right around probably about 204, 205.
So almost a 50% increase in cost.
That's what I noticed that, Mark. So you're in 32,000.
I like to point that out when people start talking about, well, you're exceeding inflation. Well, one vehicle like this, $130,000 more 4 years later.
Yeah. It's a shame what the country's going through.
The world's changed.
Well, I made a motion.
I move that we authorize EMS to order a replacement ambulance from ARV for the year of 2025.
Second.
Motion is second. Begin voting with Commissioner Mike Smith.
Aye.
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 Aye. So I have a discussion item before I vote on this. So in light of how much everything's going up and the expenses of things like ambulances, has the board given any consideration to entities in the county that use ambulance service but do not pay any property tax to support the ambulance service? And I'm specifically talking about Fort Leavenworth, federal prisons, state prisons, Catholic Archdiocese property. They all use the ambulance service, but they don't pay a penny toward this new ambulance. So the taxpayers of Leavenworth County, everybody sitting in this room, is paying for this ambulance. But the ambulance services Fort Leavenworth and the prisons and the Catholic Archdiocese properties, but they don't make any money off property taxes to pay for the ambulances. So what I'm asking is, can I get a consensus from the board to reach out to Fort Leavenworth to just ask if they would help us pay for EMS services?
Jeff, was this part of the pilot program? Was that included in that?
So I've been working on a pilot program with Fort Leavenworth, payment in lieu of taxes.
Right.
Because the $2.8 billion plus valuation of Fort Leavenworth pays zero property tax. 35% of our county is tax exempt. So if that means 65% of us are paying for the 35%. Ambulance service, for instance, I'm going to use really rough figures. If it costs us $5 million a year to operate EMS, the majority of that is reimbursed by insurance, but not all of it. About $2 million of that every year is not reimbursed. So that means the taxpayers are paying about $2 million a year to keep an ambulance service that's used for Fort Leavenworth, for instance. Fort Leavenworth's not paying any part of that $2 million. So I say we divide up the calls, figure out how much service Fort Leavenworth and the prisons are using, and just ask for an assistance check, like our own pilot check.
I'd really like to see this so I can get more information on a work session. I don't have a problem with it all, what you're saying, Commissioner Culberson, because I think we have to realize that, our county is in a few other counties are set up like us, and we're losing all kind of funding, and but a lot of people paying the bill for some people that don't have to pay anything. But to walk through this, I would sure like to, if the rest of the board talk about it, I'd rather sit at a work session and talk through this and make sure we got our talking points down clear before we do it.
And this isn't about thank you for your service. Isn't
I know.
anything like
I
that. This
understand
isn't about the specific veterans and saying thank you for your service. This is about the federal government, for instance, Fort Leavenworth, being a good neighbor.
Yeah.
We're just asking for pay your fair share. That's it. And I totally understand the concept of, Leavenworth would be nothing without the fort. The economic gain, a dollar bill changes hands 8 times within a community before it goes out. I understand all that.
Yeah.
But this isn't about that. This is simply cost of everything is going through the roof. We're trying to cut all these outside agencies and cut this and cut that, and for the last 30 years, cut everything we could possibly think of. I think this just fits that we're just asking for a fair shake on things like.
I agree with let's do a work session to make sure that we have this lined out properly, and then I think that
that'd be great.
Commissioner Culbertson and I should take the lead on making the communications, because I've begun to develop a relationship with the fort, and we had that forum 2 weeks ago, and so.
Yeah,
I agree. I don't disagree.
Just asking.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
well,
I think the gap's getting bigger with the housing, the whole.
Yeah, there's several other issues.
Right. That's why I said there are other issues that we need to kind of that we can
everything.
talk about.
Yeah, the work session could talk about all that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
So we can get that scheduled, Mark.
Question.
But
For Jamie. When an ambulance run goes out to the fort or goes to one of these places, what do we charge their insurance, or do we? How does that typically work on the finance side?
Correct. Anytime there's it's the user fee, and we bill their insurance. We have a complete billing program. Whatever's remaining, if deductibles, copay, whatever it is, we collect on that. The biggest issue is the private pay. As that's going up, people not having insurance or underinsured, where ambulance is not included on that. Or we run into the Medicaid rates, which Medicaid rates don't cover nearly what a true ambulance run really is. We charge our fees here locally are within Medicare rates, Medicaid rates, so we're not overinflating or any of those type of things, and have significant write-offs, unlike other services that are in the area that charge pretty astronomical fees. I'm sure everybody's seen that in the newspapers and such about getting an ambulance ride that's $1,000 or whatever. We're charging what Medicare and those type of allow, so that way we're collecting what we can and should be collecting, and it keeps it down also for the individuals that are here within our population. So when they get an ambulance ride, they don't get some astronomical bill from the ambulance that says, because we also know that they're being charged through property tax for us to be there for them as well. So we charge and we collect, as Commissioner Culbertson said, we collect about $3.2 million a year through the insurance side of it. But there is, with costs and things going up, it is about a $5 million operation to run and have ambulances available within our county.
What percent would this? You said there's some private pay where they don't have insurance. Is there?
Commissioner, I don't have that right in front of me, but I can get it to you. But I have it all mapped out of how much is private pay and how much is insurance.
I think the work session's really a good idea.
We'll just do a work session and have.
Especially if you have specific questions, if you have to Mark, I can bring all that information.
Yeah. So let's.
I think it's safe to say you'll never be able to run like an enterprise fund and be self-supporting.
Okay. Well, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I think it's to me voting aye. I vote aye.
Did everybody else already vote?
Everybody else? Okay, motion carries. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Interrupt us like that, will you?
All right. Now, we need to consider a motion to approve a KDOT cost share agreement for the 235th Street Road Improvement Project.
All right, Commissioners, today for your consideration, we do have that KDOT cost share agreement number 566-23. They have given it a project number now of C5250-01. It is for the 235th Street project between Hollingsworth Road and Dempsey Road. This project was awarded $975,800 in Kansas cost share grant funding this last April, and so we have been sitting on this agreement for quite a while it was going through the legal counsel at KDOT. It is a reimbursement grant, so we will incur the costs of the project and then request for reimbursement after the construction has occurred. The agreement has an ending date of 6 months from September of 2023 to have the project under contract for construction. So we will need to bid this project in about 3 months, or let it for advertisement, and then advertise it for a 30-day window, and then we will need the additional time after that to get the contract approved in front of you. This creates a hard timeline for the earlier referenced water relocation efforts that have not been completed, and really puts a finite end date on when those need to be completed by. We can bid the project and have it under contract and delay the construction a couple months into the spring if we needed to, but this is a very large project. It is 2 miles of roadway. Right. We are trying to coordinate both this and potential other funding sources so they overlap correctly, which is a very tricky, very complicated process in order to get all of the agreements in place. And so we do have that hard timeline currently to get this water line relocated. Question?
Go ahead.
The continuing resolution that passed through Congress, did it contain the congressionally apportioned funding, or do you know?
I do not know. I have not received any information. I don't know if Mr. Lawfrey has. I have not.
Okay. The other question I had, and we could go ahead and vote on this, but the other question I had was for the county legal staff is, are we going to have a legal opinion finalized on whether we can proceed on this project in the near future?
Commissioners, we're currently in the process of sending to the Water District relocation agreement, both for the 235th Street project and the County Road 5 project. It's the same water district. I have to be hopeful that we'll be able to resolve the matter through negotiation. If there is a legal opinion in the event the negotiations fail, I prefer to give it to you in executive session.
Thank you.
Okay.
Would you like a motion?
Sure, I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve the KDOT cost share agreement for the 235th Street Road Improvement Project.
Second.
A motion and second. Any further discussion?
It's going to be a hard timeline thinking about that project and what it entails. Solid rock.
Yeah, this project's going to be...
it's going to be tough.
It's going to be a very tough project. It's probably geographically the rock, the hills, the topography of the properties along that roadway, straightening the road. It's a very difficult section of roadway, probably one of the most difficult in the county.
We got in the county.
Yeah, probably the worst in the whole county that we're trying to do here. And it does connect to 2 major state highways. It will take probably 6 or 8 months to complete, I would say, at least. And so we need to get it started. Getting it started in the correct timeline is vital to not having a winter shutdown and not dragging this out 2 seasons. And not losing this funding. If we lose this funding, the chances of us getting future funding through the cost share program or other KDOT local projects programs is drastically damaged.
We've got to move forward no matter what.
Yeah, we need to move forward regardless, so that's what we're going to do.
I know that when I first got on the commission, that area, I believe, was in Commissioner Caus's district, and there was petitions, and there's lots of contact from people, and have continued to get that. People have been looking for this for years and years and years.
Well, it started in 2005, so.
We are going to move forward.
But we need to make sure that it happens for the folks out there, and it would be very disappointing if another government entity caused a delay.
Well, a delay will cost the funding, so.
It will cost all of us.
It will cost $1 million.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. It will cost the taxpayers significantly. Okay.
Motion and a second.
Motion and a second. Begin voting with Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, now we need to consider a motion to approve Resolution 23-25, a special use permit for Whiskey Ridge Event Center.
Morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners.
Morning.
Before you today, we have Resolution 2023-25, which is the latest iteration of the SUP for Whiskey Ridge. The components that were required from the Commission have been addressed by the applicant. That's been contained in the application itself. There are no substantial changes in the application from the ones you've seen prior to, other than the code-required installation of the fire sprinkler system. And with that, I would answer any questions, and I believe the applicant or the representatives here.
I see 5 years. I thought we were going 10 on something.
That is my understanding that we are going to 10. That's my mistake. I didn't realize that there was that 10-year limitation, so we are adjusting that.
Well, I even think 10's a little low on the investment this person made. I mean, you don't got to be a commercial real estate to see that that's a couple $1 million or better there.
Just the addition of the sprinkler system was over $250,000 in addition to what everybody spent on. So I would ask you to think about 20 years possibly.
Well, right now we have a policy that says 10, so we need to stay with our policy, but I understand.
Yeah, I think we should stay with 10.
My dad used to tell me, says, you don't get something if you don't ask for it.
I agree with you. I agree, but I'm just saying right now we have policy and we need to stand by policy.
Commissioner, I may certainly stand corrected if necessary, but my understanding of the policy was the special use permits issued by the board would generally be for an indeterminate term, subject to revocation upon violation of the conditions of the special use permit. You certainly have the right to set a policy as you go along, but that was my understanding of the current policy, that there was not a finite time period.
Okay.
It was applied across the board.
And I thought that was what we did decide, that we.
I think now that you, bring that up, yes, we did change it to that.
Auto renew. It's a 10-year term, but it will auto renew as long as
Right. If there's no issues.
So whether it's 5 or 10, it will auto renew
as long as there's no issues. So it goes to 10 years. If there are no issues, then it just automatically renews.
Yep.
Sounds pretty good to me.
Okay.
So I guess we'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-25, a special use permit on the Whiskey Ridge Event Center, omitting the definite date.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
So it'll be 10 years before it auto renews?
No, there's no date. We took the date
No,
out.
in 10 years it auto
It will auto renew.
Right, automatically, unless there are.
That way, if they were to sell the property to somebody else and they didn't continue using it, at 10 years, it would just drop off.
And then it also, if there are issues that happen to come along the way, then that's the opportunity to address those issues.
Right.
That's,
So does that motion need to be modified at all?
I think the motion accomplishes the intention of the
Okay. I just to make a statement. I just appreciate you guys. I know the sprinkler system was a big issue. I understand that, but I think for the type of event center that you're going to have, that's going to last for many, 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 many years, that you're going to actually have a product to sell that's going to be superior to other products, and you're going to use that as a selling point. And I know it was a hassle, and I know the way we got here, but it's much appreciated that you guys bore with us and were willing to make that investment. Thank you.
Commissioners, before you conduct your vote, just for clarification, was it the intention of the board that there would be a stated 10-year initial period with automatic renewal?
Yes.
Yes.
So I'll correct my motion to that effect, if that's all right.
Second, yeah.
Second, okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And I begin voting with Commissioner Mike Smith.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you.
Pleasure seeing you all again.
Thank you.
All right, now we need to consider a motion to approve Resolution 2023-27, a rezoning from RR5 to RR 2.5, located at 2571 219th Street.
Yes, Madam Chair, this is a 57.4 acre tract. The future land use plan calls for this area to be 2.5, so it is compliant with that. The Planning Commission voted to approve this particular rezone, 8-0. If there's any questions.
John, we just make.
I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, go ahead.
I boo-booed. Nothing new.
Do that one first.
We can do this one first, though.
Are you doing the Loring Road?
No, she's on 219.
Oh.
I'd skipped down one by accident.
That's all right. We can move right on to that one. We'll just go 2327-27. Rezoning from RR5 to 2.5. This is a 19.3 acre tract. The future land use plan again calls for this to be 2.5. The Planning Commission did approve this 8-0. So if there are any questions on this particular tract, I would be happy to answer.
Any questions?
No. Looked at it.
Motion to approve Resolution 2023-27, rezoning from RR5 to RR 2.5, located at 20571 219th Street.
Second.
Motion and second. Begin voting with Commissioner Mike Smith.
Aye.
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 And this matches the comprehensive plan, land use plan.
Yeah.
I vote aye.
Okay.
Close to a water tower, too.
Okay, now we will consider a motion to approve Resolution 2023-26, a rezoning from RR5 to RR 2.5, located at 21658 Loring Road.
Madam Chair, this is a 57.4 acre parcel. Again, the future land use plan calls for this to be 2.5 acres, so it is compliant with the future land use plan. And the Planning Commission again voted to approve this particular zoning 8-0.
Okay.
Any questions?
Questions?
This matches the land use comprehensive plan.
It does match the land use comprehensive plan.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve Resolution 2023-26, rezoning from RR5 to RR 2.5, located at 21658 Loring Road.
Second.
Motion and second. Begin voting with Commissioner Mike Smith.
Aye.
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 Commissioner Stephen, do you want to vote?
Aye.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. No problem.
Daydreaming.
That's all right. I was moving through the booth. We need to consider a motion to support the Planning Commission's denial for case number DEV-23-118, a request for rezoning from RR 2.5 to RR1, located at 17679 166th Street.
Yes, ma'am. This is a 26.6 acre parcel. The future land use plan calls for this to be mixed residential. The proposed rezoning was 2.5 acres. This particular action was denied by the Planning Commission at a 6-2 vote, and in the agenda item, I tried to outline the reasons that the Planning Commission stated for that. Specifically, they stated character of the neighborhood, and they had concerns with density, and as you've heard from previous comments today, they believed they needed additional information. So that is the recommendation that the staff has been left with.
Okay.
With that,
Wouldn't that type of information be on a plat and not on a rezone?
that is typically true. You get that type of information on a plat, but you also get it on a rezone during a PUD process, which I believe you heard about that as well. So a development plan in a PUD process is tied to the rezoning action.
Right.
So I think there was consensus, or at least opinion from the Planning Commission, that they needed additional information on this specific rezoning. But yes, you are correct. That typically happens at plat.
That's where you're going to get water detention anyways. I mean, when on a plat, you're going to come up with the numbers, and it's going to have water detention, and it's going to fix all these concerns. on the drainage.
This was addressed at the meeting itself. Again, we did outline that during the planning process, yes, a drainage report is required, and potential lot layouts, drainage easements, et cetera, are required during that planning process. It doesn't typically occur in a rezoning process unless it's a PUD.
And this is not.
It is not proposed to be a PUD.
And then character of the neighborhood. I mean, there's 1 acre close to that, and then there's 3 units to the acre right there at 166 and Evans.
And they're 1,000 feet from the city of Basehor.
It's a bit, yeah. That's...
So, in our comp plan says this is 3 units to the acre, correct?
Up to 3 units
Up
an
to
acre.
3 units.
And it's
so
the highest density component of the comp plan, residential land.
Right.
And on both comp plans, the A and the B, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
So both comp plans, so they can't say that the comp plan that the commissioners chose caused this. It was on the other comp plan too. And this is the city of Basehor area, or Basehor city limits is really close.
So the only issue I have is with the water runoff. The character of the neighborhood to me, there's already 1 acre lots across the street, 1,000 feet from the city of Basehor. But water runoff is a major concern. So can we remit this back to the planning and have them get more information?
Well, if it comes in as a plat, it'll address all the drainage.
That's true too.
Because because
and
there's
you'll
a
have to
zone.
have water detention.
Right.
It will fix these problems.
And if they can't be fixed, then they can't.
Well,
they can't
it's going to have to
right.
be. It will be fixed.
Yeah, if a
on
water's
plat.
right,
you can't let a plat go through unless the drainage calculations are all done and you determine what water detention needs to be done.
That's all right.
So, do we think in the consensus to remand it back to rather than?
Or we could approve it.
Or we
I have a couple questions
okay.
for John.
Commissioner Stephen.
I listened to that planning commission meeting. It looked to me like, after just reviewing what they were talking about, it looked like they were actually using this rezone to state their view on policy, not more so than just the specific case here, that they were basically putting forth a policy argument that that they wanted to have some kind of a different approach where they would have more information, or they would have a development agreement, or they would have some kind of a different type of approach when it came to them. Is that correct in my understanding?
That's what I heard. And again, it's not the first time we've heard that. I think the Planning Commission in general would like to have some sort of development plan to address land use when it comes through, so that when there is questions from adjoining property owners, or generally speaking, water runoff, drainage, the impacts to the adjoining area, they have something to make that determination on. I believe there's a study session in the future with this body that will take a look at some of those potential answers.
And was
Makes
that?
sense.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, if was that primarily related to the 1 acre type development that they wanted to have a development plan, or was that for everything?
I think their concern is for the higher densities as it relates to the comp plan, which is the 2.5s and below. So I don't necessarily think they had a bigger concern with larger acre tracts, but they definitely have concerns with the smaller acreage tracts for sure.
Okay, and since we don't have that currently in effect, since that is not currently our regulation, even if we send it back, what are we going to, and I'm not against sending it back, but if we send it back, there would have to be some kind of instructions like develop a procedure or plan going forward, or what would your suggestion be?
Well, I think you can require a number of studies. I don't know that you need to get that specific. You could send it back to the Planning Commission for additional information and reconsideration, and then they can make a determination on what they want to see.
Commissioners, I think you have some options that are in the RBA on direction today. One is to support the denial. One would be to send it back with further instruction, and the other would be to override the vote by the Planning Commission. I think that while I understand what the Planning Commission is asking for, it's not current policy.
That's the key. That's the problem.
And the Commission has voted to allow for this specific type of development in our wastewater plant.
Right. That's
allowing it 1 acre because it used to be 2.5. We changed it, and we changed it in relation to the property that actually abuts this property.
Right.
Because it was a 1 acre tract development, and then a portion of it never got platted, so they allowed the rezoning and platting to the 1 acre on those lots, and you had to amend the sewer plan at that time. So you could send it back with direction that, basically restating those facts that, one, you don't think it impacts the character because of the current zoning that it abuts up to. It's not across the road. I think it actually touches 1 acre tract of that. And that you've already amended the sewer plant or the wastewater plant to allow for it. You could send it back with those instructions and ask them to reconsider it. I don't know that it would be appropriate to change the process at this point.
No, you can't do that.
Require this new process. I think that that's probably a good approach, but there's going to be a cost to that. So you need to be aware of that as well. But I think at this point you have those three options that John.
I just would rather have an opportunity for the planning and zoning to reconsider before we would make any kind of decision.
I just think that everything that will be addressed in the planning process. I mean, I don't think sending it back's going to.
I don't think they're going to.
And they have an answer to that. They don't believe the planning process is allowing them to address the issues as appropriately, correct?
I think what they're looking for is the information that's contained in the planning process in general terms at an earlier time frame, which is the rezoning stage. But again, that's a policy consideration for a later date, and I'm interpreting what I heard. So I would, again, as Mark said, I would defer to one of the 4 actions on the RBA.
Well, I think the planning board is feeling like they're approving the plat itself.
Yeah, I think that's true.
And it's not. It's just
That's why I think that if we could ask them to, look at, factually what they would be approving versus what they were thinking.
And again, I think there's some potential fixes to this issue that you are probably going to hear in a work session moving forward.
I understand.
But today, our policy today, though, allows this.
Commissioners, if your inclination is to approve it today versus sending it back, what you need is direction to staff to prepare the resolution to be on next week's agenda. We don't have a resolution prepared today, so you really couldn't approve it today. You can give us direction to prepare that resolution, or you can send it back.
I'd like to make a motion to send it back to the Planning and Zoning Commission for further study on the various issues and give us additional information.
Yeah, I have a problem with what we're trying to do because we know the growth's down there, but there just seems like there's some things not clearly answered. So is that a motion, Mike? I second it.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I would like to add.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
If you are sending it back, I want to be clear on what you would like them to reconsider because you are sending it back for further consideration. So it's when they listed the items that they were denying it for, which would be the density, the character of the neighborhood, those types of things, then you need to really give them a reason why you don't necessarily agree with that.
David?
Well, Commissioners, just a suggestion. One of the issues you might ask the Planning Commission to address is this question: would the issues identified in the denial process be properly identified in the subdivision planning process?
Right.
And that would be a starting question. Then you could follow it with others.
Which is what I would recommend.
That's what I thought we were going with.
I think, and the motion was for receiving more information, so that kind of covers that.
By sending it back, what month are we talking now?
Commissioners, they would have to hear it at their next Planning Commission meeting. And then after that,
it would be on next week's agenda?
Apologies. We would have to republish this, and so it would be not the one this month, but next month. It would go back to Planning Commission.
And then it could be December.
November.
What?
November.
November 8th.
I think as Mr. Lawfried mentioned, there was more reasons in the Planning Commission given than just the drainage issues and the character of the neighborhood. They gave a long list of things, and so it would be helpful if there was like a few issues you could ask them to look at. It was density as a whole, and neighborhood opposition was taken into consideration, but that wasn't the only reason. They had a laundry list of reasons why in the motion that they voted to deny.
Right.
Well, I'd like to hear them delineate specifically, like it was mentioned about the character of the neighborhood, delineate why it doesn't match the character of the neighborhood.
Just a little more detail, I think, that I'm looking for.
And to be clear, they have within their authority the ability to ask for studies or diagrams or information that's relative to the components of the motion for denial. So if they want additional information, they have the ability to request that from the applicant.
Okay.
Because
I feel more comfortable with that.
You know, I want to know why they felt that, I mean, because we've got the conformance to the comprehensive plan. I mean, that's one of the things that I would kind of like for them to kind of expound upon.
And even if they don't like the comp plan we chose, it's still
right, but it's still on the right. No, I'm just saying that I think that I would like, the conformance and then the character of the neighborhood and.
And just to get it on the record, the procedure, because we've had some discussion about the procedure, there's been a denial from the Planning Commission. Can you go over what the procedure is?
Commissioners, I think the state statute, I believe it's 12757, outlines the options we have, and they're succinctly outlined in the RBA you received. You can vote to approve or denial by the Planning Commission. You can refer the matter back to the Planning Commission for additional information or findings. You can vote to override the Planning Commission at this meeting, but it would require a supermajority, which in the case of the composition of this commission would require a 4-to-1 vote to override the Planning Commission and to approve the result. If you send it back with that request for specific findings, and the Planning Commission submits it back to you, and you once again disagree with the Planning Commission finding, you may then override the Planning Commission's findings by a simple majority vote of the board.
Very good.
That's what I'd like to say.
Do we have a motion?
We have a
motion.
Well, I'll get one more question. So, if it gets sent back, then they can kick this down the road again and say we want a drainage study.
They can ask for additional information. Again, it would have to be outside the confines of the platting component. That would have to wait for its time in the review period. They can ask for additional information to address the items that they brought up, specifically water drainage and density. Maybe not a full-blown drainage study, but some general plan to address the water runoff on that site.
So that could happen in November, and then they could ask for that, and then that would kick it down the road another month or two?
They would have to vote. They would have to vote at that particular time. Since you've sent it back, once we publish, they will have to have a vote, either approve or deny.
So then December we could hear it again.
Or it could get kicked down the road to Planning Commission to ask for additional information.
No, Commissioner.
No,
state statute governs this process, and when you send it back to review, they have to take action on it at that meeting.
Right, at that meeting.
Advance it back.
Okay. Like I said, I just think all this would be addressed in the planning process.
I understand, but just out of some level of respect for the Planning Commission we've given them what we are asking for them to, to reconsider what they have determined.
And they should follow policy.
But that's one of the things that we can kind of discuss while we're sending it back, and then we'll see how it plays out from that point forward. And then at that point, I would be comfortable to.
Yeah, I just want to elaborate a little bit more on. I see where we're at with this and what we're doing. I just don't know if I feel comfortable enough without more information from the Planning Commission on it.
And I do believe we should move ahead with your work session to address the
Absolutely.
policy portion.
That's next week, isn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's next week.
Okay.
Which might give it some more comfort to the planning commission when we have sent it back. David?
Just clarification again, would your directions in sending this matter back to the planning commission, should that be your final decision, would that also include the question regarding the subdivision planning
Yes.
process that I earlier referenced?
Yes.
Okay, make sure that's
So to clarify the motion that's made, you would be sending it back to ask questions about why they don't believe it matches the character of the neighborhood, or the basis of the denial, since it did conform with the comprehensive plan, and then also more information on the denial and the point David just raised about the subdivision.
Right. I second it.
And I think that, just one of the things that also wasn't met was the relative gain to economic development, so.
Yeah, that should be on there too.
Yeah, because that's a big component. Yep.
I think that was one of the comments that was with one of the people who was speaking to us
Another
earlier.
planning commission.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Well, you've already held the public hearing on this, right? So
Yes.
you got to do it again?
We don't have a second public hearing, but you
Okay,
do have
so
to
it
publish.
can't, but you're saying it can't be on October's agenda, correct?
Correct. It has to be republished.
Because the meeting's next week.
Oh.
There's not enough time
All
to.
right. So there's not, so it doesn't have to have another public.
No, there's
No.
no second public hearing.
All right, I'm done.
All right. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? And I'll begin voting with Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Council on Aging.
Come on
Come on
down.
down, honey, give us your report. Good morning.
Morning.
Pleasant conversation.
I had a staff meeting with my team yesterday, and we were thinking about what we were doing at this time last year, and we were knee-deep in boxes looking to move to our new facility. So this has been an exciting 3 quarters of 2023 at the Council on Aging. This year so far, we are on track to deliver over 100,000 Meals on Wheels meals. That's never happened. We're seeing continued growth with that program, but what's most interesting, I think, is that in this year we've seen an increase of about 130% attrition with Meals on Wheels. So if you look at the number of clients we've served in Q3 at just over 1,600, 800 of those are new clients. So clients who have moved, who have passed away, who have moved with family out of state. There are just that many and more who are ready to go on the Meals on Wheels program. Also exciting, we've had, since moving to our new building, and in this quarter, 109 new participants with our transportation program. So no competition with Ride LV. They continue to grow in ridership. We also continue to grow in ridership. Another exciting piece, volunteerism at the Council on Aging is at an all-time high. When you put that toward the national rate for a volunteer hour, we estimate that we've saved the county about just over $67,000 in Q3 alone with volunteer hours. So that's really exciting. Also, just another couple highlights for you. Our Leisure and Learning program continues to grow. We expect to see over 100 people today for our vaccination shot clinic, flu, pneumonia, RSV vaccinations today, with another 150 on Friday. So just a busy place. We needed that extra space. We launched our Facebook page. We are one interesting caveat. We're struggling a little bit. We are a sub-grantee of the Wyandotte County, Leavenworth County Area Agency on Aging. We have not received payment from that agency since March. I believe we have resolved that and should receive payment for March to August funds that are owed in the next 30 days. It shouldn't jeopardize any of our funding for 2024. Yesterday, we were finally able to receive the allocations for our 2024 Older Americans Act grants. They have had at the Wyandotte agency a tremendous amount of staff turnover. We're unable to contact the state of Kansas to negotiate on our own behalf for those funds. So I've been working through a process with that agency to ensure that we are paid in a timely manner. They're still struggling with some of the repercussions of having their system hacked and new systems that they've put in place in addition to new employees. So it's a daily contact with that agency to ensure that we receive our funds on time. But to date, as of yesterday, I think we're in a good place to move forward with that. And also, in addition to those funds, we've applied for 7 grants and received over $115,000 in local and national grants for our agency, as well as our fundraising efforts that we do each year. So we're hoping to bring in nearly $200,000 extra dollars in fundraising and grants by the end of the year.
Stop just real quick. A couple of things. We had a question come in a while back about the PALS program and funding for that.
Yes.
Could you just touch on that just real quick?
Sure. Our PALS program is funded through local donations. We have 15 collection boxes throughout the county that bring in that kind of money. And then it's all funded with a national grant. So we receive a grant through Meals on Wheels America. And we've received that grant for the last 4 years, and that funds that program nearly in its entirety. We have also a memorial fund where folks will leave upon their passing donations that come to that program specifically, as well as a handful of monthly donors that send checks to that program. So it is funded primarily on grants and donations.
PALS program is the PETS program.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yes,
for
when
for pets that are in seniors.
Yes,
and
we
people
do
need to
charge-
understand that, yes, when we have to check registry and something says that there's, pet food or whatever, but that we have to account for every dime that passes through, and that's very transparent as to what was spent, but it was not taxpayer dollars that went to purchase the pet food. That was very generous donors and benefactors and grants that allow for our aging population to be able to keep their pets in their homes and not have to make a decision whether or not they feed themselves or their pet. So.
Yes. And in May of this year, we had a visit from Meals on Wheels America corporate office, as well as PetSmart Charities, who funds those grants because of the success of our program and the way we have used those funds to expand that program.
And hopefully, once the new
pet food plant
production plant in Leavenworth County is open in full swing, maybe we can reach out to them. They were gracious to help.
Donating for that.
We should do that on October 16th. Or are you going to the...
We should do that, but I'm not sure it should happen on October 16th.
No, but that's something that we can reach out and
It's like a subliminal message. We just ask every time we see.
The other thing I would like to touch on the funding through Wyandotte County by government, and that's been addressed, I think, administratively on their side. I will reach out later if I need to take care of that stuff.
Good. And then just to end with, we established 9 new partnerships with local area agencies, including St. Luke's Hospital. Funny to come full circle with them after having left the county to come back and provide some partnership services for us. Some hospice area programs that are helping the KU OSHA program, as well as a couple of new churches to host our new congregate meal site services. So all in all, a very successful quarter.
Very good. Great job. And you want to do a plug for your fundraiser?
Oh, yes. Please come out November 4th for our annual Meals on Wheels benefit, dueling pianos and auctions. I think there's just a handful of tickets left, so get them while you can. There aren't too many.
Tables all sold?
Nearly all the tables are sold, but we can always squeeze somebody in.
You want to share a table?
You add
200 for a table?
200 for a table of 6.
We'll split the table, the two of us, so go ahead and reserve it.
Okay, awesome. I'll leave your tickets. What was the question? Oh, you can get tickets at the Council on Aging only at this point. We have so few left. That's the only place you can get them. Okay, thank you.
Tables 200?
200.
I had a question
Sure.
for you. You said that your folks are going for the flu shot.
Yes.
But are we still doing COVID shots at that when they're doing the clinic? Are they still?
We're partnering with Walgreens, so they have the option to choose the COVID booster that is available: RSV, shingles, flu, and pneumonia.
Okay, so that's totally their option.
Yes.
All right.
They
Thank
could
you.
choose. I guess they'll only stick one in each arm, so 2 of those 5 are available.
You can just get covered with shots if you
You
want.
can. All right.
I'll be there, but it'll
Okay.
be late.
All righty.
Be
Thank
real
you.
late.
Thank you, Connie.
Connie.
Okay, now let's move on down to our discussions and what's been going on with our county commissioners this past week.
Madam Chair, I just have one thing to report. Today, Commissioner Stephen and I believe Tom from the Economic Division will be attending the Kansas Economic Conference down in Wichita. Get some insight on some things that are going on, not just in our area, but in the country. That's all I have.
Was there, okay, I'll go ahead and
Bayshore City Council last week meeting and Fairmount Township board meeting last Thursday, and then I attended the retirement. So, Doug Lamas retiring out there, Residence Department, and then visited a little bit with Representative Tim Johnson Monday night.
After our meeting last week, which it was unfortunate that we were notified so late, but the debate on the Medicaid expansion was at the Heritage Center, and I didn't realize it was that day till later, but it was very good. It was a very good debate. I think it is recorded by the chamber.
Yes, it was.
And they covered both sides. There's arguments on both sides, and
there is good arguments on both sides. I mean, just
Right.
like the EMS was talking about earlier about the reimbursement.
And then I'm going to attend. We had the local candidates on Monday night.
Yeah, Monday night.
We're at the town hall, and then I'm going today to the Economic Development Conference, and then on October 13th there's a fundraiser for the Sparrow Clinic, and former Governor Brownback is going to be speaking, and. It's on October 13th, 6 to 8, and
That's a Friday night, isn't it?
Yep, Friday night. So
Friday
it's a
the
good event to help. No matter what side you're on the issue, you can help with the folks that need help.
Commissioner Culverson?
Had Easton City Council meeting Monday night. One of the issues they reached out to me about was enforcing their city ordinances as far as dog leash laws and junk properties, and so they're asking the county to help enforce their city regulations. So I explained it to them that it doesn't really work that way, and I met with Andy and talked to him about it a little bit. And I think what I ended up suggesting to the city is they reach out to other similar small cities like Winchester and form a sort of a coalition for municipal court attorney services. So,
it's been done before.
Yeah. And so I think that's what they're probably going to do. That's all I had.
And I had the Consider Transit Authority meeting last week and another one follow up this past week's Monday. So that's pretty much all I had to share this. We're working on getting transit and trying to work on making plans to get some transit going through Leavenworth County. And we're going to work on some partnerships there. So if there's
I did forget one thing.
Go
Was the
right ahead,
KAC
sir.
meeting after the county commission meeting last week. I think Commissioner Culberson had teeth issues, but we had a conversation about the LAVTR, transportation, and the constitutional amendment on property tax.
And just to remind people, we do have the local ad valorem videos that are available for viewing, and I encourage you to share those with any group or individuals that might be interested, because this is something that we really need to pay attention to.
Or we'll come speak.
Right. Okay, well, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn if we have nothing further.
Oh, public comment at the end?
Oh, well, I didn't have any that had
Nobody
signed up,
signed
so
up.
I was, but
Come on up.
Morning, Madam Chairperson and members of the Commission. Learned some stuff today about signing up, so I appreciate you taking a moment to hear me speak. I just wanted to talk for a moment in general about case Dev 23-118 that you sent back to the Planning Commission, and note my appreciation for your adherence to policy and recognition of its value both for them and for yourselves. I live at 17561 166th Street, Joshua Zinger, and slightly different concerns than some of my neighbors about hydrology and things like that. My focus would be more about character of the neighborhood and the future of zoning and planning for the county as a whole, but especially in southern Leavenworth County. We've had the expansion of paving and roads to help support that growth. I support that. Panasonic factory is going into DeSoto. It's going to drive growth. I'm not here to be a roadblock to developments, but I would advocate that character of the neighborhood is important, that the understanding of people who are paying property taxes for 30 years is important, and specifically that, yes, it is 1,000 feet to the city of Basel. That city of Basel marker is basically rural country right now. It is also 1,584 feet to two construction projects that are adhering to the current 2.5 zoning plan, and 3,168 feet to another group of houses being built on 2.5 acre. Profit can be made by landowners and by developers at the 2.5 existing that is there presently. Counties at a crossroads. It is hard to balance development with infrastructure. And we have taken actions, the county, all of you, I appreciate that, regarding sewer to support denser development. However, there's an intersection at 166 and Evans Road that has recurring accidents. There's a memorial there right now for a high schooler that died at that intersection. Traffic added by this, the existing more dense developments that were referenced as being adjacent to it, they are adjacent to it, the property, behind it with no facing to 166th Street. So there's no current access to 166th Street by those traffic patterns. This would change that. Across the road are 154 acres for sale today, likely to sell very quickly, I would assume, and probably request one acre zoning. Yeah. That would add additional traffic to that, all part of what must be evaluated, understand. So I would just ask you to continue your serious consultation and evaluation of those. Take the recommendations the Planning and Zoning Commission puts the time in to do. They exist for a reason. I appreciate you hearing what they have to say. One of them took the time to be here this morning and speak to it specifically. When they vote on something as a 6-to-2 ratio, I think it speaks something about what their strong opinion is. And I just say thank you for your time and for your serious consideration of all these serious issues.
Thank you.
My name is Ken Hancock. I live at 16672 Dunnigan Road. I've been there 36 years. I moved out there to be in the country, and I know progress starts and everything. But this water problem has been there ever since I've been there. It backs up over my driveway, over Delbert's driveway, goes on down the road and everything, washes my driveway out. I put concrete in. So I created more problem now by letting the water run faster, but my driveway quit washing. And then after they had the tubes put in too. Well, the tubes was put in before I put the driveway in. I had a 3-foot tube, a 6-foot tube, and that still did not help the problem. It still backs up and goes over. So this problem has been going on for years, and nothing has been done about it. They know it backs up over the road because one of the commissioners was out there one day. I can't think of his name back then, but and also this road at 166th and Evans Road, that issue it's a hard place to get in and out of. I go down there personally and cut the corner on the southeast side of 166th and Evans. So when I pull up there, I can see what's coming from that way there. They had fixed that road a few years back, several years back. They cut that down, that hill there down a little bit, and put the road back together. But it's still a terrible problem right there trying to get in and out of. And like I said, this water problem has been going on for all these years. It's not been fixed yet. And what's it going to look like when we get more houses in there and it starts backing up more? That's my concern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm Audrey Moody, and I live on Parallel Road. But I purchased 2.5 acres a few years back with the idea of building a home there. And now across the street from me is 154 acres for sale. So also I am concerned about the Evans Road and 166th Street. But as I look at that, I know development is coming to Southern Leavenworth County. But I hope that the commissioners take a look at that 154 acres across the street from me and have a development plan in place before they would proceed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak this morning? If not,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
begin voting with Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
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 Thank you very much.